my personal story, I was incarcerated from the time I was 17 to the time I was 19. And I had 2 children in high school. Okay. So when I did the math, because I'm a mathematical genius, right?
Okay. I'm just believing all this.
No, it's serious. This is serious. I did the math on it. I had a 0.1% chance that I would go to college. It's 2 to 3% if you have 1 child. I had 2. And I was incarcerated. Not only go, but I double majored. I made the dean's list.
What do you think the switch was?
Man, in particular, it was a guy named Mr. Reynolds. Okay. And so I'm young, I'm wild, and he really kind of checked me. He was like, listen, I met your mother, you come from a good family, you acting a fool because you want to act a fool. And it was hard for me to receive because how dare this white man come and tell me something he don't know nothing about where I'm from and what I've got going on.
He saw straight through it. How old were you at that time?
Probably 17, and it was a reality check. And I was like, I gotta change my ways.
Fully Connected. Welcome back to another episode of the Fully Connected podcast. I am your host, Chris Jones, licensed therapist and owner of Fully Connected Counseling. Today, we have Sean Gates in the building. He is the founder of the Gates Institute. It's a one-on-one mentoring program, pretty much helping out kids in the middle, as you say, and helping them to be able to transition into adulthood. Okay, so Sean is not only active in the community on several different boards, he's also a rapper, a musician. Just released a new project about a year ago. We have him in the building. Is 316.
What's up, sir?
What's going on?
Man, I appreciate you. Thank you for having me, man.
Absolutely.
You got a lot of accolades yourself too, man.
Man, I appreciate it, sir.
Yeah.
I appreciate it, man. So as you can see, you already got the Gates Institute shirt.
Yeah.
Right now, representing here.
Definitely, man.
Definitely.
Branding. You got to brand it.
Exactly.
Thank you for having me.
So when did you start?
Legally, 2023. But probably 03. That's when I first got into mentoring and that type of thing professionally. So the Gates Institute is a new business, but I'm not new to the industry.
Tell everybody a little bit what the Gates Institute is exactly.
So the Gates Institute is really simply, man, we get kids. Mm-hmm. You know, I've spent a lot of time in working in this field, and we're a for-profit model of mentoring that gives one-on-one mentorship versus the traditional blanket style of mentorship. If you have multiple siblings, if you have multiple children, you know that even children who come from the same home with the same parents, with the same culture, are very diverse in their skill sets and their personalities. So to give them one blanket mentoring is like crazy.
It doesn't work like this. So one shoe doesn't fit everybody.
No, not at all. And so it's time that we use some innovation. It's time that we start thinking in new and different ways to help our children, because we're losing them before they even get to adulthood. And so if what was working isn't working, someone has to come along and say, we got to do something different, because this is our children that are at stake.
Exactly, man.
This is our future. If we don't invest in the children, the same kids that we feel are incompetent and troublemakers and inadequate to deal with their emotions are going to be the ones that's going to be running the world when we're old.
The children are the future. Let them lead the way.
Yes.
Just like the song.
And,
you know,
I'm sure our grandparents probably felt the same way. It's like, ooh, this is going to be the generation that's going to be making policy, that's going to be running and dictating society when I get that old. Right. What did I put into them?
Exactly. What do you feel like is going on exactly in the community when it comes to helping youth? Because I feel like a lot of people are doing the same thing, especially in our community. Yeah. You know? So speaking to what I alluded to earlier, anytime a child comes into the Gates Institute, they get a personality test, they get an aptitude test, and we sit down and we talk to the stakeholders that are important to this child, whether it be clergy, whether it be their therapist, whether it be the principal, anyone who wants to come and sit in on this meeting, because I want this child to see that they do have a support system. Then I create what's called a personal success plan that's based on this child's individual needs. We set short-term goals, mid-term goals, and what I call a big goal. This is my dream goal. Right. What would I do? What am I willing to do this? That way, all the stakeholders that are important to this child can see in a centralized manner what this child should be working on. Absolutely. They're not hearing
one thing from this person, one thing from that person, one thing from this person. With you being a therapist as their mentor, it's important for me to have a conversation with you because what are you already working on with this kid? I don't want to come in and put them on a new program. I want to aid what you're already working on.
Man, that's
and that separates the Gates Institute from other programs.
Talk a little bit like what you said on the phone. You said you're trying to reach the kids that are in the middle because that stuck out to me when you brought that up.
Well, if you've worked in the school system right now, we have this big battle that's going on in America about schools, right? COVID taught us something. Here on the local level, we're learning with these schools that are closing. Now parents want to be involved. Now they want to be concerned about what's going on in school because they have one view of what the school day is like, and being an educator, being in the building is a totally different thing.
It's totally different, bro.
Totally different pain points, and the kid's kind of caught in the middle. Well, for most of the children, what happens is the very high functioning kids and the very low functioning kids get the most attention.
Absolutely.
The low functioning kids, because there's so much funding for it, for the government, from this, for that, because of behavior issues. For the very high functioning, because the school wants to, in the same sense, kind of soften the image from the money that they're getting from the low function by highlighting these children on the top. Say, oh, okay, this is really what our school is about. But you talk about 5% of the students that are 4.0 students. So in the middle, you have all of these children who really just need one or two skill set tweaks to be higher functioning. It's a lot easier for a child to not go to school, to get in trouble, and not do their homework and get attention for that than it is for them to get attention for being a high performer.
Exactly. I would agree. And so, like, when you talk about attention, most of this negative behavior for a lot of kids is just a need to get some kind of attention.
Yeah.
You know?
And which one's easier for you? Act a fool in class or study for 4 hours?
Man, that's facts. It's facts.
Yeah.
You know, so it's interesting, man. So what got you into, like, mentorship?
Man, to be honest with you, I'm going to say a higher calling. It was just my calling. And I'll explain to you what I mean. So as I'm doing market research, I've worked for a lot of these programs, and I just always felt they had good hearts, but I just felt disenchanted that there was something more that we could be doing, that we weren't doing things in a correct manner, because at my age, there's more programs for children than there's ever been, yet children are worse off than they've ever been. They're more unhappy. They're more suicidal. They're using more drugs. They're having riskier behaviors. For us, not me, because I was a perfect kid, but for everybody else, you know.
He said, I'm like, hold on, did I hear that right?
Yes.
So I
never did anything my parents didn't want me to do. But for the rest of me,
you got the formula then.
You know what I mean? Right. I got the formula. For the rest of you guys, you at least tried to hide what you were doing. And now they don't even do that. It's just all out in the open, whatever they're doing. And as I'm doing this market research, I learned that only 5% of juvenile offenders will go to college, just go within 1 or 2 years after being released. And only 2 to 3% of children who become parents in high school will go to college.
Really?
Within 1 or 2 years.
Wow.
Yeah. And so
the objective is to get more kids to get to trade school, further their education.
Well, to a sense, but the point that I was making is that my personal story, I was incarcerated from the time I was 17 to the time I was 19. And I had 2 children in high school. So when I did the math, because I'm a mathematical genius, right?
I'm just believing all this.
No, it's serious. This is serious. I did the math on it. I had a 0.1% chance that I would go to college. It's 2 to 3% if you have 1 child. I had 2, and I was incarcerated. So that 0.1%, that's what I'm talking about. Like, it had to be divine, because if you would have told me that, you know what, you're going to stay squeaky clean enough to work in this industry, right? Even after getting in trouble as a juvenile, you're going to develop these unique skill sets
You only have a 0.1% chance that you're going to even get to college, let alone graduate, let alone double major, let alone help send other kids to college. So that is like the secret sauce, if you will, of the Gates Institute. Because if you'd have told me that I only had that percentage chance, I don't know if I would have took that route.
You would have probably did something you like music or whatever, basketball. Yeah. Wow, that's interesting though, because there's so many kids I would see, like, well, I still see in therapy who pretty much are just like, they don't see the point to grades or some of these things a lot of parents and teachers focus on because they never seen anybody around them in their environment actually get out of that little, you know, that cycle.
Well, and so part of what I advocate for is we're not so heavy on, the Gates Institute is not so heavy on the academic side because there are already programs out there that are great at doing that. And I don't need to reinvent that wheel. I'll refer you to that program.
There you go.
Just like for you, you are great at what you do. I've heard a lot of clients talk about how you've helped them.
Appreciate it.
Without you, this is just informal conversation, right? They don't even know that I know you.
Right.
And so that tells me Chris is doing a great job at what he's doing. He's providing value for his customers because they're telling other people about it. So I'm not a therapist. I don't have to do that. Let me refer you to someone who can help you. But this is what the Gates Institute is about, right? We're helping you you mentioned being on boards. I'm on the Sedgwick County Mental Health Board.
Okay. And that's the one when I met you on. Was that the same one that comes?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
The mental health awareness or something?
Yes. And so what I learned is that mental illness is real. It is.
Yeah.
People have issues. There's certain issues in society that cause them. It's just my opinion. You're the professional here. Let's be clear.
You're right. You're right.
But there's a difference between a true mental health issue and mental weakness.
Uh-oh.
Sometimes we're confusing one with the other.
Yep.
Somewhere along the way, we got it along in our head that nothing bad is ever supposed to happen. And if it does, then it's something wrong. No, that's not the case. There's going to be obstacles that you have to face that you're going to have to be mentally tougher to deal with. And so we're teaching that. How do I be mental tough? Like, what makes an adult, and what makes a successful adult is mental toughness. How do I discipline myself in the morning to get up when there's no one to tell me that? How do I problem solve?
Yeah.
Every day you wake up and you got a set of issues, and it's what do I do to solve these problems? And that's what I teach them now. When a kid turns 18, he's expected legally to have the same skill sets as me or you at our age. But what do you know about adulthood?
Right.
Who's teaching you? Then when you get in your 20s and you make all these horrible mistakes, why do you think they're making these mistakes? They don't know what they're doing.
Ignorant.
Right? So now in your 20s, you're making all these bad mistakes that you have to make up for in your 30s. Smooth out in your 40s.
Wow.
Versus, no, let's make good decisions now. Let me teach you how to be an adult now so that you don't even have to go through that. So you can coast through your 30s, build in your 40s, and be prepared to retire in your 60s.
Man, that's facts, man. Because I remember even on one of the tracks you were talking about something along the lines of this. But before we get into the music, I wanted to stay on the same note as far as the mental toughness, because I agree 100%. Because some people struggle with mental toughness. What would you say to maybe a young adult out there, or even just to an adult out there who struggles with mental toughness? How can they toughen up?
You have to consciously develop mental toughness. You got to not wish things were easier, but find ways to be better. It has to be a conscious effort to say, you know what, this isn't big enough. This isn't big enough to beat me. You know what I mean? You got to get to a point where you enjoy testing yourself to see what you're made of.
Absolutely.
And it really, a lot of it is goal setting, man. It's goal setting in one form or fashion. What are you setting your goals are? One of my mentees I was working with last night, I got this from my professor, but from the day he told me, I memorized it. And it's, excuses are the tools of the incompetent. They're used to build bridges to nowhere and monuments of nothingness. Those who use them seldom amount to anything. Stop making excuses.
Stop making excuses.
Find a way to get it done. right? That's what makes you tougher, because you feel better about it when you go through a situation and you don't really know. Freshman year in college, it's an adjustment. No one's telling you get up and go to class. If you don't go to class, you're just going to flunk out, right? You got to make that adjustment. But once you make that adjustment, sophomore year is easier. Junior year is easier. Senior year, I'm ready. I've mastered this. I'm ready to go.
So what is in the adjustment, would you say? Like, what do people need to adjust?
Self-knowledge. The problem is conformity. We're conforming to a group of people who don't even know why they're conforming. So if I go to college, you go to college, we graduate at the same time, we have the same degree. What is different between me or you? The things that's going to set us apart is self-knowledge, knowing what works for you. And that's what I advocate for in the Gates Institute. I worked at Dillon's. It actually was Food for Less at the time. And it's like third shift, and I'm stocking the shelves, and I fall asleep. The guy's like, you fall asleep again, I'm going to fire you.
Dang.
This is like 2, 3 in the morning. So
right.
He comes back around, and I'm not asleep this time. I'm writing around because I'm trying to stay awake.
Right. Because you don't want to get fired.
I don't want to get fired. He comes back around, I'm asleep. He's like, all right, at the end of the shift, you got to go home. Well, first of all, I'm thinking, if you think I'm going to finish this shift, you crazy. So, man, I got in my car. This is a true story. I got in my car. I drove to WSU about 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning. I slept in my car in the missions parking lot in the morning in my uniform, everything. I went enrolled because I knew that I could do 4 years of college, 5 years of college.
Right.
And it took me a little longer than that.
Yeah.
Than I could 40 years of labor.
Wow.
Self-knowledge, being honest with yourself about who you are and what you want and what you're going to do. I knew I could discipline myself for 4 years versus 40 years of whatever. I was never a great student at all. I didn't make honor roll for the first time until I got to college in my whole scholastic career.
Wow. And that's something, man, like you were really dedicated. You were like, because I think a lot of times people struggle with delayed gratification, because that's what it sounds like to me. Like you set yourself up to be able to sacrifice 4+ years to go to university instead of working at that Food for Less job.
Yeah. It was tough. Being a full-time student, being a full-time employee, being a full-time dad,
man,
juggling all that, doing music.
Yep.
What do you want? What do you want? What are you willing to give for it? You're going to get what you put into it. Man. And so that is what it is. That's that mental toughness. Like, on the music side, shout out to Hitman in 93.5. They played, we spoke about Melanin Sons. So they played Top Down, which was on there.
Man, that had almost 350,000 views, man, or plays.
Yeah. And, man, I sent him 20, 30 records over the years before he played one.
Right.
Before he played one. And so it's tough. It's tough to overcome those obstacles. But what I do know is no matter what field you're in, you're not ready for massive success if you're not ready for criticism. It's just not going to happen.
When did you realize that?
When I was getting too sensitive, I threw a show and nobody really showed up.
Yeah.
And I was pissed off. I spent money on it. I promoted people. Hey, I'm gonna come, whatever. And then
everybody's like, yeah, we'll make it.
And then so as I'm wallowing in whatever, I happen to be listening to Jay-Z. And as I'm reading the comments below, he ain't this, he ain't that, he ain't this, that. And I'm like, here's a man who's a Grammy winner, beautiful wife, billionaire.
Very.
If they criticizing him, if they criticizing LeBron was another one. I'm a Kobe fan, but how could you ever be mad at LeBron? If he's getting criticism from these people who ain't even accomplished none of what he accomplished this year, what are you going to receive?
Man, wow.
And it helped me toughen up.
So if you're not ready for the feedback,
you're not ready for success.
Wow.
It's only going to get louder.
It's true. It's very true, man. And I think that's why, even for myself, the fears of what holds people back, even myself in the past, but how do you get over that? Some people might be watching it and they don't know how to get over the fear of what other people are going to tell them?
I was very much motivated by the fear of failure for a long time. I didn't want to be a failure. I don't want to be failure. So I teach my mentees, don't be motivated by the fear of failure because you're trying not to lose. Right. I'm motivated by the thrill of victory. I love winning that much that I'm not even thinking about losing. But the truth is, man, a lot of people are afraid to say it anymore, man, but it's my sense of spirituality.
Yeah.
Praying, meditating, minding things of the spirit that kept me grounded during those times where it don't look like you're going to get to where you want to be. 0.1% chance. Even during my scholastic time, again, trying to balance all of these, juggle all these things. Sometimes some things give, and some semesters it was school, and now I'm on academic probation. And if I don't do well next semester, you know what it is.
Just like what happened at the food for less.
But that's one of those moments that you got to boss up. But when you are real about it and when you do it, you get a sense of peace because I may not be able to control whatever situations come to me, but I can control how I respond. And when it's time, I'm on in. Man. That's why Kobe's my favorite player.
Mamba mentality.
40 or down 40, he still wants to kill you. Bottom line. And that's what I teach. That's what you need in life. Our children are even at more of a disadvantage than us because when we were going into college and that thing, it was mainly a local, regional thing. It's international now. You got international students from all over the globe that's vying for the same scholarships as your child.
Wow. I never really connected those dots, but absolutely, because at WSU, you see people coming all across the world.
There's more foreigners on the campus at WSU than there is African Americans.
Ain't that something? I believe it because I saw a lot of people, and some of the foreigners look darker than me.
Yeah.
But they're not considered black.
But we're both Wichitans. Think about that.
I lived literally 8 minutes away from the campus growing up.
Man, I lived on 13th and Hillside.
Yeah.
29th
and Oliver. So it's just
I could hear the baseball games from my porch. You know what I mean? That's how close we was to university. Yeah. And I never thought I could go. But one of the other failures is that, dealing with that middle of the pack is everybody's not meant to go to the university.
That's true.
It's just not.
It sometimes might be trade school.
Yeah, and that's still a beautiful thing. I keep mentioning the 0.1%, bro, because it's only a reminder to me of something that was higher than myself was driving me towards that path, and it wasn't just me alone. Mm-hmm. It wasn't that skill set alone. Because how do you go from having horrible grades? What makes you say all of a sudden I can go to academia and succeed and then do it? Not only go, but I double majored. I made the dean's list.
It was political science, right?
Yeah, political science and ethnic studies.
That's awesome, man. What was the switch? What do you think the switch was?
For me?
Yeah, because you said 0.1%.
Man, so from my sophomore year to my junior year, I was in Topeka, Kansas. They used to call it the CAT. Right now it's KJCC.
Yeah, the CAT.
It was the people.
They still call it the CAT.
It's still the CAT. If you know, you know. But man, it was the people that were up there that during this 2-year time, as I'm transitioning from being a teen into adulthood, they kept it real with me, right? And my willingness to hear this, but it wasn't always what I wanted to hear, but it was really what I needed to hear. In particular, it was a guy named Mr. Reynolds.
Mr. Reynolds.
Yeah. Now, Reynolds is my family's last name. Is one of my family's last name, but this is a white guy. Okay. And so I'm young, I'm wild, and he really just kind of checked me. He was like, listen, you could play the race card if you want. You could play this if you want. I met your mother. You come from a good family. You acting a fool because you want to act a fool. And it don't matter what you say to nobody else because you're going to get the end result. And it was hard for me to receive because how dare this white man come and tell me something he don't know nothing about where I'm from and what I've got going on.
He saw straight through it. How old were you at that time?
Probably 17.
17.
Yeah. And it was a reality check. You know, when I was there at the facility and
Melanin sons, I say sometimes we see the signs but can't interpret what they mean.
Ooh.
There's signs going all around us, is that we just so focused on our own selfishness and whatever we're doing that we're blind to them. So I'm walking down the sidewalk as I'm locked up, and
Dang.
there's a bird that's on the sidewalk.
Okay.
And as I get close to the bird, he flies up in the air and he lands just outside the fence. Just outside the fence. And it hit me. Look what you've done to yourself.
Wow.
You restricted yourself to where you can't move and someone else is in control of you, your destiny, whatever you got going. This bird is free. He did whatever he wanted to do. They couldn't keep him in here if they wanted to.
Wow.
And I was like, I gotta change my ways.
When you saw that bird flew over the building, you realized, like, man, I ain't free.
Yeah. But I also realized from talking to Mr. Reynolds, the things that trap us, you know, this, for minority children in particular, this ideal of ghetto glory.
Ghetto glory.
It's a monument to nowhere. You know what I mean? It's a bridge to nowhere, a monument of nothingness. What does it even mean?
Do you feel like hip hop has some accountability to that, or do you feel like hip hop does hold us back as far as the black community?
I think the way that hip hop is marketed is the problem.
Right, the corporation.
Because,
like you said, we set the trends.
yeah.
That was on I think that was on Melanin Sons, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Let me talk to you. Yeah. The marketing of the darker skin is designed to bring profits in. We don't want to set trends or corporations rake dollars in.
Okay, yep. There we go.
Yeah, that's exactly
But that's
what I'm
always
saying.
been like that.
Yeah.
Just not even far as music. I mean, that goes back.
But, you know, there again, that's still taking accountability away from ourselves, right? I should just not put this stuff into my head in the first place if it's not good for me. You know, like when I went to the library as a kid, there was a fact and fiction book. You know, we knew that this was fact and this was fiction, and there was a difference between the two. Part of it is people don't read. They don't even go to the library to know that there's a different
Between facts and fiction,
right? And so when they listen to this music, they can't differentiate what's fact and what's fiction. And part of it is probably because the lines have really gotten blurred between what's fact and fiction with these rappers. They rapping about what they really doing.
It's crazy, man, because they're not really doing none of the stuff they're even doing, for one. But some are. But I remember you said on that track too, when I was listening to, you said, I'm not a drill rapper, I'm not a trap rapper, I'm a golden era rapper. Pretty much. You just got the bars.
Yeah.
And even the word trap, like trap, I feel like it keeps a lot of people trapped, like literally.
Yeah.
You know, and so it's like, it's kind of like interesting when you think about it like that. But what has happened in your opinion to like hip hop? Because it used to be very like Public Enemy and all that kind of rap.
Capitalism. Simply put, you know, unfortunately, hip hop is just like a natural vehicle for capitalism. It's just great for it. You know what I mean? And
Wow, wow.
You know, of any product.
Because materialism, right?
Yes, car is just the best form for it. And that's why it became most popular, because you hear a lot of people, I can't stand rap. But when you turn on CNN, they playing hip hop beats. When you watching car commercials, they got a rap video in it. You know what I mean? Right. Champagne commercials or whatever liquor, they got rappers as their spokesmen.
So what are they really saying? They say they can't stand hip hop when they actually do like it. What are they can't stand something else.
Usually the people who are producing it.
Yep.
And their demographic. But even at that, they're not the same. The consumers of hip hop are not the same as the producers of it.
Right.
So
ain't that something? That's something, man. Wow. Yeah. Well, one of the tracks though, you said eat better, sleep better. I was like, man, this is different, man.
Man, like again, there's cause and effect for everything. And while I'm not, I think we're extreme as human beings, right? We're very extreme. So on one end, we like, oh, if you have spirituality in the public sphere, then it'll lead to the Salem witch hunt.
Oh.
Right?
Yeah.
But what is the other extreme when you don't have spirituality and rule sets at all?
Uh-oh.
So we don't know how to find that balance. And that's what's missing. Like, I think that things are very simple. I believe in what I call the LCD of life.
LCD of
the
life.
lowest common denominator. What's the lowest common denominator? And it's not rocket science to understand the golden rule.
Right.
Treat others like you want to be treated.
That's simple.
Anybody could understand that. Yet we find it so hard to do. We expect things from people that we won't give them. We have unrealistic expectations of other people's behavior and conduct. We think that other people should show more restraint than we can ourselves. And it's just crazy to think of.
It's interesting on that concept of treating other people how you want to be treated. I personally believe that people actually do treat people how they want to be treated. Just some people want to be treated like crap. Because it's because of trauma. It's just like almost
That
like
makes
how
sense.
somebody
they don't feel
would
like they deserve
exactly.
to be treated. Wow.
Because like I see that a lot of times with some of my clients, like like maybe somebody will go and marry their somebody that's similar to the person that abused them. They're maybe in a relationship with this abusive person.
Oh, wow.
But then they realize like, okay, you got mommy or daddy issues, and so what happens is we're really trying to like master our past, so then we'll date somebody that's similar to somebody who hurt us in the past. It's all subconscious. So it's like we actually do treat people how we want to be treated. It's just, once again, if you haven't healed, you're going to treat people like crap because that's how you treat yourself.
Yeah. I recently had like the self-realization that a lot of the women that I've interacted with was a reflection of how I felt about myself.
Man.
And that was not easy to swallow, because then I had to turn back and say I chose people who weren't good for me necessarily, because I wasn't even having healthy thoughts about myself. But there again, I had to take that. I had to also say that was not on them, that was on me, and not give other people the power, because when you do that, I think you giving them the power to heal you too. If they don't want to release you from, then you stuck in it. And no, thank you.
No, thank you, man.
No, thank you.
About relationships, I always say I really honestly feel like relationships are the highest value. Whether it be a relationship with God, a relationship with your kids, your wife, whoever, yourself.
Yeah.
And so I've been on this journey to figure out, is there anything that could be higher than relationships, in your opinion, of like what value? Because it just seems like to me, life is about connection. Whether, once again, if it's with the higher power or whatever it is, it's like that's the greatest value. It's like connecting.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And one of the things that showed me that was COVID.
Man,
COVID. You little things you took for granted. You know what I mean? Like, people was happy to see people at the store. You know what I mean? Where normally you like, man, there's a long line. I was like, hey, go ahead. Like, you know what I mean?
Made us appreciate each other.
Yeah, connections. You know what I mean? When it was taken, the ability to go do whatever you want to do and be around who you want, then you started valuing, I can't just go see grandma anytime. I can't, you know what I mean? Those type of things. So I agree. And I think that along the lines of what you're saying is that we've placed more value on things than people.
That's capitalism.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's killing our children, because
100%.
they'll be on the podcast doing this. Huh? Yeah, I heard you. Well, and it's
right.
Where's this?
A lot of the times when I see like a client, like especially a teenager that does that, I start to realize like this is just what they do everywhere they're at. It's not anything personal to me. It's just they're always on their phone. But then too, when you dive deep, you start to realize their parents are on their phone too.
Many of my clients, their parents, that's one of the problems that they have. My child won't get off the phone. They won't stay off the computer. They won't stay off this. But really, it's a reflection of what you've done with them.
Yeah, you
when
bought
they were
all this
4 or
stuff.
5, you bought all of it, and you set them in front of that to give you a break to do whatever you want. So they created the habit of doing this since 4 or 5, and now they have a dependency on it, and you want to be mad at them for that.
Ain't that something? But it's spot on. It's spot on, because see, the thing is, when it comes to parenting, it's actually that kind of lazy style of parenting is so very easy. You had a long day at work. all right, here's the device, here's the tablet, go ahead and do your thing. I'm not trying to deal with it. I'm stressed out. I'm a single parent or whatnot. So just get on the tablet. You see, because it actually takes more energy and effort to discipline and to put structure into the home to say, hey, we're not going to be on the we're going to be on the games for this amount of time, then we're going to do a family activity, then we're going to eat dinner, then we're going to go outside. That requires you to have put a little bit more effort and energy.
Yeah, but man, unfortunately, a lot of parents don't understand that some of that is not their fault, right?
Yeah.
Because if you look at your kid wrong, someone's calling DCF on you, right? So what do? You have to appease your kids somehow, right?
Right.
And so it's not all on the parents. Some of it is
That's true.
is, legislation. It's tying the hands of these parents. A good friend of mine, one of my best friends, her dad said to me one time, sometimes a kick in the butt is better than a pat on the back. We all want the pat on the back, but we don't need the kick on the butt.
Right.
So our society has hyped parents up to give them all the pats on the back, but none of the kicks in the butt.
Right.
And that's part of the problem. So the parent, even if they want to discipline their child, their hands are tied.
Because
they're also in a rock and a hard place because, okay, I want to get my child some help, but if I give my child some help, he may get caught in a system that's bigger than I can really deal with. Maybe I don't want my child medicated. Maybe I don't want my child to end up in this facility or in that facility or with this label. I just need, and that's where the Gates Institute comes in.
Man, facts.
Let me come talk to your kid. Let me help them, get them on board. I'm not a part of any government agency.
Right, you're not a mandated reporter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not going to let you abuse no kids. You're going to have to go knuckles with me so you can report that.
Man, you're right. Right.
You know what I mean?
You're going to have to, exactly.
You can hear it from my own mouth. I don't play when it comes to violating children or any of that. Take me to court for beating you up. Fine.
Yeah.
I love these kids, man.
100%.
Like, you know,
you see yourself in the kids.
Yeah, man.
I think that's what it is. Like, because you remember where you were at. Like,
yeah. And I know that if I didn't do what I was supposed to do, there's going to be another kid like me who may not run into Mr. Reynolds.
Yes.
Who may not run into Mr. German, who works at the facility still, who I'm still close to.
He's still up there at the CAP.
Yeah.
Wow.
To this day.
Have you talked to Mr. Reynolds since you seen him?
No, I haven't, man. I wish he could, if he's seen this.
Shouts out to Mr. Reynolds.
Shouts out to Mr. Reynolds, man.
What would you tell him if he is watching right now?
Thank you that the work that you did was not in vain. Sometimes you plant a seed and you don't get to see the tree grow and produce fruit, but you just gotta have faith that what you planted will come to fruition.
Man, that's real, man. That's real. Yeah. Exactly, man. And I feel like that's kind of part of the Gates institution.
Yeah, absolutely,
as well, man, because you're planting seeds for the minds and the leaders of the future.
These kids, they're longing for something. Mm-hmm. They need that love. They need that attention. They need to be challenged. They're bored. They got everything handed to them. There's those are the things that are plaguing them. See, like, what separates me from other programs is I believe in cause and effect. The child who feels loved, who feels appreciated, who feels safe, who feels like they're on a path to reach healthiness or to reach their level of success, that's important to them, doesn't exhibit destructive behaviors. Now, there are certain standard behaviors that come along with the age group that we're now saying is deviant.
Right.
And it's not. That's what teenagers do. When you're a young boy and you got an older brother or cousin, you're going to run into a magazine or something. That doesn't mean this person's a deviant. That means that's age appropriate, right?
Right.
When you get to a certain age and you want to do things, it's like, do I really tell this young boy, oh, you should remain abstinent, even when grown men can't?
Man.
Is that really, am I really helping him?
Because you're not really actually practicing it yourself.
Yeah. I mean, grown men some of the greatest men have
felt because they couldn't control their sexual urges. Why do I expect for a 13 or 14-year-old to, and why do I tell him that something wrong with him for experiencing this? Or do I tell him, listen, this is natural, but these are the consequences for your actions.
Right. That's
This
so much
is how
better.
you protect yourself. Come talk to me if you have a question. Not, you're wrong for this.
Right.
They already struggling.
So once again, not to cut you off but it's just like we talked about earlier, they're mad at themselves.
Yeah.
So now I'm going to take it out on you or whoever that is because I'm struggling with disciplining my being sexually disciplined with whatever it is.
Yes.
I'm going to take out that frustration on you because I'm already taking it out on myself, but I don't want nobody to know.
Yeah.
Right. And so once again, we treat people how we really want to be treated.
Right.
Believe it or not.
Yeah.
And so then, based on how somebody treats other people, you can see how they really are treating themselves.
Yeah.
Those negative thoughts.
Oh,
you want to stay far away from those people or set up some healthy boundaries so you don't have to deal with that.
And it wasn't until I got older as a man that I was able to see the consequences of my promiscuity, right? And accept the consequences came from that because I wasn't self-disciplined, right? There's consequences for our actions, and I beat myself up for that a long time. But those are the things that I have real conversations with our kids.
Absolutely,
right?
absolutely.
And I talk about healthy relationships, and what I tell them is simply this: no matter what the relationship is, there's going to be conflict. That's not even a question. It's when it happens and what it's about. For me, healthy relationships, when they come into conflict, regenerate, and bad relationships disintegrate. And that's how you know whether this is someone you should continue to be involved with or not. When you get into a conflict, do you use those things as ways to get closer to each other, or do it pushes you further apart? Because if it pushes you further apart, even a little thing is going to feel like a chasm just trying to fix this because you're so far apart.
Wow.
When you regenerate, you learn those little nuances to make even big things small. Wow. It's like, oh, this is for other people would be a big situation, but we're going to sit down, we're going to communicate because we have that mechanism. No one's told kids that. So how do they know?
So that's really interesting because I think about it in terms as far as maybe an intimate relationship. Like if a couple is further apart, those small issues are now way bigger. Just because now you got to yell at somebody because you're all the way on this side of the room, maybe not physically, but
you're right.
Mentally, emotionally, you're here and you're there. You feel like there's miles apart. So then now something small happens when you could have just tapped them on the shoulder, but now you got to yell, argue, cuss.
And that's in not just romantic relationships, but in relationships in general.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so for me, if it's not regenerative, if it's not making us better, it's just not something I'm interested in.
I can't remember what the name of the track was when you said something about don't spend your whole life beefing with your family. That stuck out a lot because I see once again so many people who they have so much resentment and they're not able to let go of whatever grudges of somebody did to them, which sometimes obviously it could be harder, but I'm trying to remember what track that was. I think it was on
That's Want Not.
That's on the new project. Compelling Argument?
Oh, Compelling Arguments.
Yeah. Want Not.
Yeah.
Tell us about that. How do you, is that something that you saw a lot, around you? People beefing with their family forever?
Yeah, absolutely, man. And the thing about it is, if you fight with your mom, if you fight with your dad, if you fight with your siblings, it's going to happen. But what does it say to society that you don't respect the people who you're blood related to?
Right.
What can I expect if you don't honor and respect your own parents? And so your parents are your first bosses. Your siblings are your first co-workers. If you don't get along with them, you're not going to get along with anybody.
Wow.
And so you are cutting yourself off from the only people who actually might care about you.
Wow.
When you leave your residence, it's 6-7 billion people on the planet that at any given time could have a position that's opposite of yours. So the people who you're bonded with, what do you do with them?
That's interesting, man. So then once again, it's just like your true colors are going to show in these private, personal relationships, not just on this public front.
Yes.
But like how you treat people that are close to you, or even how you treat a stranger, can really tell a little bit about what's going on inside.
In particular, as it relates to mentoring, I tell children, your parents only have so much time in a day.
Yeah.
If they're spending their time disciplining you, then they can't teach you the skills that you need to be pushing ahead to become an adult effectively, because they're trying to keep you out of trouble. And so that is harming you. So you taking resources from yourself instead of learning that your parent is not your enemy, but your parent is not perfect. I have a great relationship with my mother and my father, but I think it's because I see them as, I respect them as my parents always, but I see them as people too.
Right. Wow.
And I like who they are as people.
You accept them.
Yeah.
You know, and you can see exactly, everything they had to do now as an adult,
Yeah.
and how difficult that had to be. But why do you think there are so many, well, not so many, but at least from what I see from my experience, a lot of defiant youth?
Unrealistic expectations of what parents are supposed to do.
Wow.
Even, I'm a very realist person. And just to keep it 100, my mother was a teenager when she had me. And we all know the options that could have happened. We all assume that the flaw in the children, I try to get them to explain, you assume that all of the situations surrounding your birth was pleasant. And that's just not always the case.
Yeah.
Some of us,
Yeah.
we was on the chopping block.
The chopping block, yeah.
So I'm thankful to my mother because she owes me nothing. We hear the horrible stories of how some of these infants leave our world, and I won't.
Right. For sure.
And so the fact that that wasn't my fate, that I was cared for, that I was loved and protected into a stage where I can try to fend for myself in this world, is a debt of gratitude you kind of owe to this person. But society has changed the dynamic of the parent-child relationship, where it's only the child that should benefit from it. Only the child should benefit from a relationship, and the child feels entitled. They feel entitled for the parent to do anything other than care for their basic needs. In America in particular, our kids have nothing to complain about.
Man, right?
Nothing.
Right.
We
got
should have the
everything
best children on earth. There's parents who have great hearts and can only afford the bare minimum across the planet.
Right. Because you see, like, kids in other countries, they're so happy.
You've been.
Like when I was in Egypt, like,
And
some
they're
of those
happier.
way happier, because they don't. Less is more.
Yes.
Less is more, because once you want something, now you want more. Then your ego. It's like drinking salt water. You're always gonna be thirsty.
Yeah.
So it's just like those kids out there, they don't even have that. So they're just very thankful. I remember when I was in I was in Luxor when I was out there in Kemet, man, and there was this kid. He was like 14, I think he was like 13, and he had his own like shop. Like his parents just let him run the shop, and like we would get like toilet paper, different like goods and whatnot in there. And I just talked to him. I said, "Hey, you mind if I ask you some questions?" And he was like, "Yeah, that's fine." And his English was kind of broken, but his whole objective is, he says he wants to make it to America because he doesn't like it here. And he wants to go to America. So he's working now to save money to get a ticket to go to America. And he had his own like little business.
And they tricking off the opportunities
to come here, because he talked about how much money he could make here. So if he were to, get here, he would not be a lazy kid on the tablet, on the device. Like, he was working, no socks, no shoes out there.
I don't think they understand that.
No.
Our kids don't understand that. I work with currently now, I work teaching English as a second language to foreigners. And they have a perception that it's just that easy to make money here. Right? We have social nets, we have social safety nets in America, and that's what makes America great that other countries don't have.
The social welfare.
Yeah.
Food stamps.
Yeah, you still gonna eat. You know what I mean? You go get a box of food somewhere.
But the food ain't gonna really be that good for you, but it'll help you survive for the time.
But that's a blessing.
Yeah.
if it can sustain you enough to make long enough to make a plan, but people don't plan to fail, they just fail to plan.
Yeah. Yep.
You know? And so that safety social net is also what stifles capitalism too. It's a double-edged sword.
Why is that?
Because why do I need to be motivated if I'm going to get some free food next month?
Just like during COVID when people were getting those checks.
Oh, yeah. But you also seen that there are people who were very responsible with it.
Absolutely.
And helped them,
absolutely.
You know, but then you seen the rat race. You seen how many people was getting fraudulent loans and the fallout of that. That's the nature of the beast. And, you know, I felt like the adults in my life, in a lot of sense, lied to me, per se. There's a lot more understanding that I was capable of, but I was given this or that. And so I don't do that to the children because it's not helping them. And when I tell them something real and they figure it out on their own, they come back and they're like, thank you, Mr. Gates, because you actually told me the truth, not gave me this fluff story.
Right. You shot it straight.
Yeah.
You know? People, and that's what people want to hear. They want to hear the authenticity of just life. You know, just like this is why podcasts I feel like blew up too, because people want to just hear kind of that conversation. But what is your definition of a man? How to be a good man? Because nowadays, with all these podcasts, what I know online, a lot of information is very divisive.
Yeah.
And so there might be some nuggets here and there, right? But like, I feel like I'm just curious to kind of get your perspective on what is a man? Like, what do we need to do as men to be healthy men and not just out here being toxic?
So for me, I don't know if I can narrow it down to one thing.
Right.
But I would say like there's several things. At the core of it is staying true to your word. Like who you say you are, being that thing. But in a bigger sense, being a man is about being peaceful. I actually think that it's just my personal opinion. I think that men fighting is more feminine. Men talk to each other, and if we have an issue, then that's a whole different step. But we talk to each other first. For me, it was always the females that were ready to fight. But you know, that's my take on it.
Because that's really interesting.
I think that being a man is about providing for your family and your community as a whole. It's both of those things.
Right.
It's
protection
about,
and provision.
Yes, it's about empowering your brother. You know what I'm saying? And when I say brother, I am talking about black, but I'm talking about as men as a whole. Right. Because what race is a flood? Man. If it rains for 30 days out here, and as men, I got to provide and protect my family from this flood. Do I care that it's a black man or a white man next to me sandbagging? So why does it take this crisis for it to be like that? See, a real man, he knows we're going to plan ahead. We're going to work together. Those are things, and I think that it really is harming. The lack of masculinity is harming our community. So my problem with the term toxic masculinity is, what is the counterpart for that?
Toxic femininity.
Why don't you ever hear that?
Because politics. And then too, like as far as men, you know, we already, you know, have this privilege of being a man just because society
was it a privilege?
That's a good question.
Do you feel privileged from being a man?
At times, but overall,
are there privileges for being a woman?
Absolutely. That's what I was curious to kind of get your take on it, because absolutely there's toxic femininity, there's toxic masculinity, but then there's, you know, those are on the far ends of the spectrum.
Exactly. But I'm saying, if you the man of the house and an intruder comes in the middle of the night, what are you expected to do?
Defend yourself.
You better have some dog in you.
Yeah, mental toughness.
You better be ready to
You better have some dangerousness about you that's going to say to this person who's coming to my house, I'm more dangerous than you if you come in my domain to protect my people.
Protect your peace.
If you stomp that out in boys, then who... You know what I'm saying?
I see exactly what you're saying, because you said like
you're gonna have weak men,
and you said like too, like being a man's being peaceful, but then also there is the element of having that edge.
Absolutely.
I think like maybe like possibly being a man is having the balance between both of that. You know, like being able to have, you still have that sword, but being disciplined enough to be able to know when to use that sword. Because I feel like a lot of kids, like when you were talking about like the fighting is more feminine, which is really interesting, and especially with the whole J. Cole thing, the apology. But a lot of kids,
I was proud of J. Cole for that.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And a lot of kids, especially in high school, somebody's talking about their mom. You know, that's usually going to result in a fight. But then now you're saying like maybe that's a sign of weakness, because it's showing that you can't really regulate your emotions.
Exactly. Like just riding a school bus for us every day, for my generation, if they see this, they'll laugh because they know it's true. Just the school bus ride to school or back to school is enough to crush some of these kids' self-esteem for life. Some of the things we said to each other in jokes was, okay, you got on me today. You talked about my mom or whatever. I'll see you at the park. Let's go play basketball. Now, the fights usually only happen when one person was having a bad day and couldn't take it, because everybody has their day. Today, everybody on your head. Tomorrow, everybody on your head. But it made us better because
it made them tougher. A little
Absolutely.
But now people can't. They have so much going on. They can't just hear that no more.
Exactly. And that's why even the child who has a little bit of that resilience is going to skyrocket in the future.
Absolutely.
Versus other kids who don't have that.
Right.
And that's why I teach them, like, yo, listen, like, if I listen to all of the things that other people had to say about me, where would I have been?
Right.
While I had people here, let's talk about music. I had people here was like, oh, you whack. You this, you that. But then I go travel, I go to other places, and when I do music, like, oh, wow, you dope. So what if I would listen to them?
I remember J. Cole told XV, back when he performed here in 2010, he said most of your haters will be in your city. Most of your real fans will be outside, because even when I would rap back in high school, I remember there was this one cat. He's like, man, you guys made some really good tracks on this project. But he's like, it's just weird listening to it because I know you guys. We rode the same bus back in 5th grade. So it's like, it doesn't, like, if you knew your favorite artist and you guys had the same biology class, it would be kind of different, I would say. Like, it's not even no longer like your top artist. So I feel like that separation as far as like the music and the person is kind of good for local artists, for sure.
But I mean,
for upcoming artists, I should say.
Yeah, absolutely. But man, that's what, bro, I'm a winner. Like sometimes I go back and I watch like game 7s of NBA championships or the Super Bowl, just because I love to see that thrill of victory. I love to see that look on their face with what I achieved, what I did. I'm not a hater. There's a saying that says, wherever one blade of grass is plucked, 2 grows. We're in a very beautiful world that's abundant. It's no shortage of anything, no matter what no one says. It may be a shortage if everybody wants the same thing and they're overusing something, but there's enough to go around. That's attention, that's love, that's food, that's whatever it is. Right. So when I see somebody win, especially somebody I know, I'm more ecstatic for them.
Man,
I like J. Cole, but I don't know J. Cole. I like his music, right? And that's good, but I know XV.
Yeah.
That's my guy.
Right.
I know his girl. I know his kids.
Right.
Who do I want to sell more records?
Okay.
I don't want J. Cole not to sell no records, but do you think I'll be mad about my man providing for his family on a high level?
Exactly.
That's a retooling of your mind. And these are the concepts and the things that I put into the classes for the Gates Institute. So there's actually three different tiers. There's a beginner tier, there's an intermediate tier, and then there's an upper level tier. Yeah. And on the beginner tier, you got to learn about yourself. You got to learn about why you're motivated to do things. Who are you? What are your skill sets? One man's asset is another man's liability. It just depends on how you use it. When you start understanding that, then you can stop judging everybody else and understand that you have genius.
Wow. Know thyself. Know thyself.
Yes. Huh? There's latent genius in you that, Michael Jordan, I probably may not beat him 1 out of 1,000 times playing one-on-one. But if Michael touched that microphone, I'm going to dominate Michael Jordan. You understand me?
Right. He ain't got no bars.
Have every ghostwriter. Now he got some stuff to talk about.
He got some accolades.
You know what I'm saying? He got some accolades that he can throw in there, but he better be ready to spin them, right? You know what I mean? And when
because that's not his
lane.
Nah.
But we so busy trying to be great at what other people do.
Wow.
LeBron's 6'7", 6'8". How tall is he? You know what I'm saying?
Right.
He's designed to do that.
Wow. And so this is really interesting because it kind of reminds me of some of the ancient mystery schools. They would do kind of like what you're saying on that first level, know the temple, know you, know what's going on with you, because once you know that, now you can be able to kind of connect the dots and know everything else too, because this inside is just really, everything outside is just a reflection or projection of what's going on inside.
Cause and effect.
Man, the correspondence.
Most mentorships are trying to change the effects without changing the cause.
I think not only most mentorships, but most just schools, most of these systems out here trying to help, people that look, not just people that look like us, but just kids in general. It's just like we're living life from the outside in. Like we're not actually focused on the internal. And I don't know exactly why that is, but I think it's just because we live in a very materialistic world.
Conformity.
Conformity.
People are scared to say, you know what, I do love God. People are scared to say, you know what, I'm not for that. No, I don't want my kids seeing that. No, I don't want to participate in that. So now we're in a world that if you're not pro something, you're automatically anti that. And that's very dangerous.
Right, that's black and white.
Yeah, and it's not that case. Like, hey, listen, live your life how you want to, but that don't mean that's how I'm going to live my life. And so these are the things that I'm incorporating with these kids. And what I'm seeing is the end result of children who I get to mentor. They're emotionally stable. They're more able to set goals. They feel more self-confidence in themselves because I've helped them to identify what their strengths and weaknesses are. And they know.
So if I was a young kid that was coming into your mentorship program, what would I need to do, or what would we focus on first? If I was like a 16-year-old junior in high school.
Yeah. So the first thing I want to take this aptitude test. Take this personality test. I didn't know that there was a such thing until I got in like late high school or college. These tests are very accurate. They really are. They can tell you a lot about yourself and what you have an aptitude to do. And so that's the first thing, because I want to know who I'm dealing with. I want them to know who I'm dealing with. The second thing I need to know as a mentor is, what am I up against? Because I can have this kid in this homogenized environment where I'm teaching them and they're learning, but then they're going to go back to where they were getting affected from in the first place. So I got to teach them how to stay clean in this dirty environment. How do you maintain your righteousness? How do you maintain your sanity? How do you maintain your good nature in a world that's not, really like that?
Yes.
And so after that, I actually listen to the children. See, we think as adults about what's good for kids, but kids don't think like us. If they did, they wouldn't need us.
Right.
So I'm thinking, what is important to you? What is the next steps for you in your life? I remember, man, if I'm just being honest, I remember laying in my bed as a teenager at night, really petrified about the future, about the next couple of years. I've been telling my friends I'm going to do this and I'm going to go to this university and whatever. And that's what I want to do, but I don't know if I really could do it.
Yeah. You know what I mean? Self-doubt.
Yeah, that's self-doubt. And so it paralyzes you. And so instead of applying to Duke like I really want to, I apply to Drake.
You know what I'm saying? And it's like, well, at least I could do this, but that's not what I wanted to do.
Right.
Not that, Drake's a bad institution.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Giving that comparison. And so it all starts with goal setting.
Yeah, because
once I know that about this kid and I can see who's most influential to him.
What if a kid doesn't have any goals? Because a lot of times, their parents might have goals like, they have issues with anger or grades or whatnot. But what if the kid, sometimes I see at least like a lot of kids will just copy and paste the goals that everybody else tells them. But like, what about like, and sometimes some kids just don't have enough life experience to know what kind of goals to even set.
So one of the things that I teach them is something I developed called the D.O.V.E method, D.O.V.E. And it stands for discover, observe, verify, and engage. If you don't know, go find out. Go discover it.
Right.
See observe what this field is. Observe what's going on without making any judgments. Just look at how things are done. Then verify your information. Who are the players in this industry? What do they do? Is there a reason why it's done this way? Can I innovate? Yeah. Can I do different things? And then after you made your verification, engage
with it. Yeah.
Engage. Wow. Start to do it. Start to be a part of it. Don't just sit there and look. I think a lot of people read books. They go to seminars, and that's just another way of procrastinating.
Absolutely. It's preparation, but it's another form of anxiety too.
So for that kid who doesn't have goals, the first and the most important thing that I can do is help him to develop his ability to listen to his own intuition. Never once have you said, man, I shouldn't have listened to myself. Why did I listen to myself?
Man, right.
It's a total opposite.
Right.
Man, I should have listened to myself.
Right.
Because we all agree that we have this inner compass that tells us what it is. Their problem is they haven't developed it enough to hear it, and they don't know how to block out the rest of it.
Yeah.
So just by doing that alone is going to put them in a better position. And then there's small things that I do to help them to come into proper relationship with themselves. See, we think about our relationships with everybody else, but not with ourselves. Our subconscious mind knows every single time that we lied to ourselves.
Man.
Every single time we said we were going to do this and we did not do this. But there's a way to rebuild that confidence in yourself. So it starts with small goals. You know what? I'm going to get up at 6 a.m. every morning. When you do that, now yourself says, hey, okay.
This is what we're doing.
This is what we're doing. I trust you now. You kept your word.
Right. And that builds confidence.
Yes.
Keeping your word with yourself, like you said, being a man, that builds confidence. Yes. Because if you don't, then now you live a life where you're not following through with what you set out to do.
Yes.
And you just don't feel as good.
And this is the innovative steps I'm trying to take. If you want there's a lot of people who do a lot of good work. There's only 3% of, and this is according to the Department of Education, there's only 3% of mentorship programs that are for profit. 97% of them are
the
non-for-profit. 86% of those are religious organization-based small groups.
But see, like the nonprofits don't always work out because there's like the agenda that you got to be able. You get so sidetracked with everything else.
Or chasing grants that you get off of the mandate of, and it's the child that hurts. And so, if you want your child to, take pictures and go on college trips or whatever, fine. I'll refer you to programs like that. But if you want your kid to have some substance that's going to actually have a return on investment, that the end result is that your child will be a more well-rounded person. Because as a parent, your parent, what is it that we really want? See, we got to discover what is it that we really want for our children. Man. And what we really want is to know that I've prepared you enough in a way that if anything happens to me, you'll still be able to sustain yourself.
There's a good book called The Self-Driven Child, and it talks about kind of the things you just said right there too, because I see a lot of the times a lot of helicopter moms and whatnot, and it's just like you have to be able to get your kid to be able to do it on their own. You have to get them to empower them, but there's a lot of enabling going on.
The ones is always hovering.
And then too, a lot of parents sometimes, if they don't have their own identity outside of being a mom or a dad, then they associate their whole life with just being a mom, being a dad. And so then it's just like, let your kids be able to go out there and make some of the mistakes.
When I talk to clients and they hear that I'm for profit, it's like, why would I pay for a mentor? When
Why
I can
would
get
you
one
pay
for
for
free?
anything else?
Well, I just tell them, I was like, there's prisons that's for profit. There's day programs for foster care kids is for profit. So do you want to pay me to develop your kid, or you want to pay me to house your kid? Which one do you want? Right? And the for-profit model allows for me to directly invest in the infrastructure and specialized training that I need to help these kids without having to depend on someone else's goodwill. Right? Whether they want to donate their time, whether they want to donate their money. For my kid, I don't want to leave it up to chance. I want to hope that I'm putting them in a program and they're actually doing something of value.
Right.
I don't think that that's a good.
No, it's not.
This is a good plan of action.
It's not. It's not, man. But it's really interesting. But I was thinking too. I wonder if the Gates Institution will ever see adults.
So, in the long term, my goal is to encompass the whole family. This is kind of my calling. Is where I've been at it, but I've worked with the whole family in different capacities.
Yeah.
And family is the backbone of society.
100%.
And society is an inverse connection between the degradation of society and the degradation of family.
There was a song you said on the you said something about when the family crumbles. What did you say? It was a line. He was like, when the family crumbles,
Then the culture do too.
then the culture do too. Yeah, that's
My man
what it was.
been listening,
Yeah.
yeah.
I was listening.
Yeah.
I was like, because I was just thinking. I was like, man, when the family crumbles, I was like, man, that's facts.
Yeah.
He said like how we can be able to be as men to be able to be more, committed to our relationships, and how sisters can be able to be better wives as well. But like, I agree 100%. The family is the backbone, and I see a lot of families, and I know you do as well, that are struggling, man.
On the new album that I'm releasing,
There's a new one.
yeah,
Okay.
it's coming out, and I said, she don't want no baby, or she just want a baby. She don't want no husband. He don't want no family. He just trying to cut something. Questions of conception when your parents was just. It ain't part of our culture, but we become accustomed. So we fight to have a seed, then we act like we don't want them, and they grow up thinking that don't nobody love them. And this is the byproduct, the cause and effect.
Right.
Because you had parents that wasn't trying to have a family, they was trying to have an intimate moment. But these children are the byproduct of that, not a relationship of love, a relationship of lust. And then they grow up thinking, don't nobody want them, because they become pawns for the state. Who gonna get a tax return? Who gonna get to claim on my taxes? Who gonna get this benefit from them? Who gonna get this? Not. This is a life that we brought in to the. You know what I mean?
That's a bar right there, and that's on the new project.
Yeah.
What's this project gonna be called?
It's called The Have-Nots.
The Have-Nots.
Yeah.
Okay, I like that. The Have-Nots.
Because we always focusing on what we don't have instead of focusing on the beautiful things that we do have. I had a conversation with a friend today. I said, we live in a place that's so beautiful that the sky changes colors. You know what I'm saying? It's not the same every day, and food actually grows on trees. Yet we can't find anything to be happy about.
Ain't that something?
If you really think about
crazy.
An apple, bro, it grows in its own biodegradable packaging, and if it falls and lands on the ground and rots, only thing it does is bring more apple trees for us to eat. And we can't find nothing to be happy about.
And I think we've been programmed not to be happy because of capitalism. So we can buy more stuff, because really when you buy more stuff, it's an identity booster. It doesn't really have anything to do. You want to buy that Versace belt or whatever it is, or get that new car. You're trying to purchase something to boost your identity so you feel better about yourself. But that doesn't really last at all. It's all instant gratification.
How much did you spend on your first trip overseas? How much did you spend total, exact dollar?
I would say probably in total, maybe like 4.
So my point is, while you may not even remember the exact thing, you may not remember the exact price, you do remember the feeling that you had when you was in Egypt.
Right, about the experience.
that's That's the value.
And it was the people that I liked the most.
Yes.
Other than like going into these big temples, it was amazing. But my favorite part, and I always would say this, was the people I was there with.
Those are the things that matter.
Right.
Is, it's those memories. You know what I'm saying? It's that
The memory is so, yeah.
and those are the things that people are trying to get away from. That one Thanksgiving when your uncle said this and everybody laughing. Every year we got to talk about it. You know what I mean? Those are the things that bring you more joy and happiness. Susie Orman says that you spend more when you feel less.
Wow.
And that's
facts.
our culture as a whole, on the macro level of America, spends so much because we feel so less, because we know deep down inside, we know that our values, our morals have slid.
Man.
What we accept in public domain is just.
That's when do you think that happened? Like what? Because I would agree with you 100%.
It's a pendulum swing, if you ask me.
Yeah,
you
right.
have
it goes back and forth.
Yeah, you had the roaring 20s. It was wild. You know what I'm saying? Then you had the depressions that, kind of settled everybody down. So it was the age of temperance in the 40s and 50s.
Mm-hmm.
Then in the 60s and 70s, you had the flower children, and you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And then we got sick of that, and then we had the 80s where it was all wholesome and whatever. Then it's the 90s, and it's a pendulum swing. People get tired of it, and so they want to go back to other, and then they get tired of that. It's like, you're making me be too good. I mean, think about hip hop. When it first came out, it was very conscious. Then it went from conscious to party rap. Then it went from party rap to gangster rap.
Oh yeah, that's
then from gangster rap back to more conscious artists. Then back to, all right, we had enough of it. Let's party.
Soulja Boy.
Oh, y'all party too much. I'm gonna be gangster.
Where do you feel like it's at now?
I think it's swinging back to the conscious.
Yeah.
People want substance, man. These
fast food rappers.
Yeah, and man, garbage in, garbage out. There's a kind of telling my age, but there's a rapper, Cool G Rap.
Oh yeah, Cool G Rap.
Man, legend. He said something that was entertaining, and Lord Jamar said something similar, that you could tell the level of intelligence of a person by the music that they listen to. A, B, C, D, E, F, G is entertaining to my 3-year-old, but it should not be for me. And so when you got grown men who listen to little kids,
man,
you got a problem.
Wow.
And you wonder why you doing it.
Ain't that something?
You won't grow up.
Ain't that something? That's crazy. That's why some people listen to like symphonies.
Yeah.
Because there's mathematics in that.
More, yeah.
I mean, with any music, there's math in it. But I mean, there's more complicated equations versus just, like you said, ABC, 1, 2, 3.
Yeah.
Just rapping. But then again, now you got stuff like AI. You know, making these tracks. And I think there could be some benefit creativity wise, but then again, if not used correctly, like especially with capitalism.
Yeah, but I think that's all intention. I personally think that the internet was created to be all seeing, all knowing, omnipotent, omnipresent. But there's unintended consequences of everything. And one of the unintended consequences is that like-minded individuals like me and you, we use this platform to spread a message like this. I don't know if that was the intended purpose in the beginning.
Right.
But so with any technology, is what you do with it. It's definitely what you do with it. But I think that people are searching for deeper meaning. Deeper fulfillment. In particular, our children. The ones that I come across, having those one-on-one conversations with them, even little small conversations with them. Any of my students will tell you, I don't want to present myself like I'm this square type of person, because I'm not. I talk crazy to my kids. I love them. I'm cracking jokes on them. You know what I mean? They cracking jokes on me. But that is a byproduct of the time I seen him in the hall, because I looked at his face and I knew he wasn't his best self that day.
Right.
And I said something positive to him.
That's good.
You
That's
know,
good.
it's
That's good.
the kid who always gets in trouble, right? He does something good, and we're like, oh, well, that's nice. You should have been doing that, which is true to a point, but why don't you give him as much praise as you heckle him?
Exactly.
Now, which one do you think he's going to want to do? And so
the one that's going to get him more attention quicker.
yeah, and so the end result for me, is for these children to be more loving, more kind, more understanding, more forgiving of themselves first.
Yeah.
Because if you don't give that to yourself, you know, you can't give it to anybody else. And man, there's high pressure. See, we only had to deal with the peer pressure of our little friend group who went to school with us and every day. They got peer pressures of the whole world on them.
Man.
Every day they get on social media and they see somebody, whether they capping or not, look at this luxurious lifestyle.
Right.
You should be getting it. If you don't get it as easy as I do, there's something wrong with you. But you lying. You done rented this. This is a marketing scheme for you. When they don't know no better, now they looking at this and they soaking it up. And they saying, man, even though I'm only 14, I want to drive a Lamborghini. I want to live in a big house. With some financial gurus to tell you that's a liability. You don't even want that. Right. But that's what they see. And so I don't believe in giving fish. I give fishing poles, because what happens when I'm not around? I want to teach this kid to be self-sufficient, because there may not always be a Mr. Gates, but you still need to thrive and be successful.
Man, that's facts, man. You don't believe in giving fish. You believe in giving fishing poles.
Yeah.
So people can be empowered.
Yes.
So they can figure out how to fish themselves.
Yeah.
Like, that's the key. That's the key. And so then you're the teacher to be able to teach them how to fish.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I had to do it myself. I just talked about the statistics of 0.1% of being incarcerated and having children in high school. I didn't mention social economics. I didn't mention being raised in the ghetto during the gangbang era. I didn't talk about the AIDS epidemics of our day. I didn't talk about none of those things. The statistics that are
even being black.
Yes, I was gonna say I didn't even get to the statistics of young black males. I mean, we see that from single parent homes, the statistics speak for themselves. How many men who are in prison? How many black men are in prison who came from single mother homes? Right? How many of those kids with learning disabilities that have IEPs come from the same environment? And we're not looking at those things. And it was only by my determination, some divine intervention, that got me to where I'm at. But this is where I was supposed to be at, so that I can help develop these kids and help transition them back into a way that's going to be the most beneficial to me. The worst thing for me, bro, is seeing kids burn out, young kids.
Yeah, just tired.
I worked at a school here, and I stopped working for them. That's a whole different story. But from the time I stopped working for them, within the first year, these are kids I dealt with every day. One ends up ODing on fentanyl. 2 or 3 end up pregnant. One's in jail for murder. 2 of them got murdered. And this is just at one school.
High school.
Yeah.
Man.
What we're not looking at, what is making a kid, what is so bad that they're willing to risk their life for these things.
Man.
We failing them. It's partly because we trying to give them mentoring, we trying to give them guidance from where we're at and not from where they are. Looking at it through their lens. What's important to them? For me, when I think about, I got to go pay my bills or whatever, I don't want to pay it because I don't want to give up the money. Right?
Right.
But it just is what it is. It's not something I'm fearful of.
And I think it's a lot of like instant gratification, because I see a lot of kids, what most teenagers want is, friends and independence and freedom. Like that's their priority. you know, unless if they're not too social, they might kind of be more introverted and play video games or do more stuff like that. But they want to fit in, you know. And so based on the kids' friend group or environment, they're gonna fit into whatever's around them, so they can be accepted. But that could be good or bad.
Yeah. Well, kids listen, again, they need us to think where they're at because they can't do it for themselves. Right? And so adulthood is about responsibility. And so they want to they don't want the responsibilities, but they want
the freedom
that comes with adulthood.
And it don't work like that.
That's a contradiction. So listen, if you doing adult stuff, expect to get adult consequences.
It works just like that. But then there's also some adults who also are trying to avoid responsibilities, but still want the freedom, still want the promotion. And so then I always said, you can be physically an adult, but emotionally and mentally, no.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, and so then it's just like some adults, right, who look like adults, they got full grown beard, but emotionally they're like a 16-year-old.
That's their biological age.
That's their biological age.
But not their cognitive age.
And I wish that God would have made us look like our cognitive age.
Wow.
Like I really do, because our biological age misleads a lot of people.
You know what's funny? Because I tell my mentees all the time, the boys in particular, don't be a Peter Pan. Don't be a boy who refuses to grow up.
Yes,
you know what I mean?
Stuck in Neverland.
King of the Lost Boys.
But there's so many. Yeah, that's exactly. Yeah,
the guy who never grows up, who's the king of the Lost Boys, who's afraid of.
But see, that is now glorified because you got these Twitch streamers and these YouTubers in their mom's basement making all this money when they ain't even really done anything at all. And a lot of these kids want to be.
You're not wrong about that, but I'm not even mad at that. There was a student of mine, and you know, his mother was like, "Oh, all you want to do is play video games and smoke weed." But guess what he does now? He lives in California. He works at a dispensary, and he does Twitch.
He's making money.
For me, I got this from Earl Nightingale. If you got a chance, go check out Earl Nightingale, The Strangest Secret. What he says is success is the progressive realization of a worthwhile goal. So the mother who wants to be a stay-at-home mother, if she takes goals, steps to do that, she's a success. Right, so for me, I don't want to define what success is for this kid. If that kid's happy smoking weed and playing video games and he's not destroying society, we got to live with that.
But see, so many parents, at least the ones that I see, they can't because they once again put their kids are a reflection of them. They feel like, so it's like, oh, if you're out here smoking weed, how's that going to make me look?
Now,
you know,
again, I tell them, if you're going to smoke weed, and a lot of them do, this is an adult choice. The adult situations and consequences come from. Absolutely. So you got to handle that. You may not be able to handle that as a kid. So I would tell you no. If you're not going to class, if you ain't doing what you're supposed to do, then this probably ain't for you, brother.
Nah.
But again, it's that thing. Do we say, how do we tell this kid, oh, don't smoke weed because you're going to be unsuccessful? But everybody he views as successful is smoking weed.
Ain't that something?
The richest person he know of, not personally, but that he know of, is on the podcast smoking a blunt in a mansion worth millions. Right. So what do I tell this kid? For me, if he's happy and he ain't causing problems in society, it's kind of like classroom management. If you got a kid, he acting a fool, okay, if he on his phone, but he ain't doing.
But there's the very few kids who are smoking weed who are not causing problems. Maybe not in the classroom, but maybe sometimes at home. Yeah. But maybe just alone, the problem. Because what I think with kids, you know, I told one kid, like, he would smoke, like, just so much weed. And I told the parents, like, you know, I'm not an alcohol addiction counselor, but it's like, I advised him, like, why don't you just smoke at least after school, man? Like, why are you smoking this much beef? Like, it'd be like we would try to work on, like, how about you just smoke after school after you get your responsibilities
some
done.
People would say, oh, that you shouldn't, you're okay.
Oh yeah, his mom did. She wrote me a long email, and I said, once again, I told you in the beginning, I'm not a drug and alcohol counselor, right. But it's just like, we got to meet your son where he's at right now. He said he's been smoking since 11, after 5th grade, after his brother got in that car accident.
Yeah.
You see, and he said that's when he started smoking. So it's like he's 16 now. I'm trying to get him to maybe just see if he can just change his amount, frequency, or just maybe switch it to evening time so
Well-
he can be at school and function.
Well, they do it with med reviews.
Yeah.
They do med adjustments. Oh, well, no, you shouldn't take this in the morning because it's gonna make them sleepy in class. So don't take that until after school. Right. So
Yeah, it's just about because, and then even like with my adult clients too, it's like, hey, how about, I said the same thing. Why don't you smoke after work? Why are you smoking before work? How about just use it as a reward system?
Yeah.
So then, you could be motivated and like, all right, that's something you to work towards.
Yeah.
But I would agree with you that a lot of that's an adult decision. It's adult activity, so you have to be willing to handle the adult consequences. But I think it was Jordan Peterson. He said,
I like Jordan Peterson.
yeah, he came to Wichita too last month,
Man,
and he said, responsibility gives our lives meaning.
Yes.
And so then it was like responsibility gives your life meaning. And then I realized, wow, like so many kids are avoiding responsibility.
Yes.
You're also avoiding the meaning.
That's why they're not happy. Bro, when I was the feeling that I felt like when I be young and I go play basketball, knowing that I had homework to do. Yeah, I had fun, but I didn't enjoy it as much because in the back of my mind, I know that I'm shrinking my responsibilities. Now, as I mature and I get to college, and now I learn time management skills and different things like that, and to segment my time. This is my homework time. Now, when I finish my homework and I go play basketball, I feel great.
Right, because you got your responsibilities done.
He's
You can
correct about
relax.
that. Responsibility makes us feel good. When you get some money and you said, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that with it, and you get it and you actually do it, you feel great about it.
Exactly, because you follow through on what you needed to do. And too much responsibility can be too stressful, but that good amount. Because a lot of these kids, they play video games. I know the games I used to play when I was a kid, we didn't have all the online stuff, but like you could change the difficulty. When you play the first player game, you could change like easy, normal, hard, or maybe like a crushing or something like a higher difficulty.
Yeah.
And I would ask the kids, why don't you, what difficulty do you usually set the game to?
Right.
And most people say like hard or normal. I'm like, well, why don't you put it on easy? And they said, well, it's too easy. It's boring. It's not fun.
Wow. Yeah.
And I was like, well, what difficulty do you feel like you're putting your life on?
Wow.
Because it seemed like you're on easy mode and you're not going to unlock any of the achievements.
That's why I don't have no problem referring children to you.
Hey, I appreciate it, man.
You
know what I mean? Because like when you set the difficulty to like normal or maybe a higher difficulty, now not only is it more fun because it's challenging, but not too much of a challenge.
Yeah.
But also you get to tap in and unlock the rewards of whatever at the end of that game. Because if you beat a game on easy, you don't usually get anything. You just get a little third place trophy, if you will.
Perception is everything.
Everything.
And as I've worked on my own perception and continue, because it's a journey. It's not a process.
Yeah.
There's really no end result to get to, because once you get to a certain level of health, you realize that there's other things you need to work on. So it's a journey and not
absolutely.
Not an event. And so one thing I realized is I play basketball a lot, and for everybody watching this video, I'm pretty much better than you.
Okay.
But in all seriousness,
Did you play for Southeast?
No.
Okay.
I couldn't discipline myself. So imagine Southeast won state my sophomore year and my senior year.
Okay.
So imagine playing with these guys at lunch, rec, whatever, you just as competitive as them. Of course, some are better than others, what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
But not being able to discipline yourself to even make the team because you can't make grades. Because you stayed out smoking all night and overslept, couldn't wake up in the morning. That's, not being responsible. Made me feel horrible about myself. But what I realized is, like, at that age, fairness is about opportunity.
Fairness is about opportunity.
That's it.
Say more about that.
Everybody who gets drafted to the NBA has the same opportunity to become a superstar. That the same opportunity, not the same skill sets, but it was fair that they got to the league.
This is what Jordan Peterson speaks about too.
Right. So who's going to discipline themselves? Who's going to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning and jog? Who's going to still work out in the off season? Who's going to go home and sleep and get up and practice? That's
what sets them apart.
Right.
That's what makes the greatness.
Right. So what I realized is that because of my mindset, anytime anything was hard on me, I assumed that it's like a double team. Why are you double teaming me? That's what a kid says. Why are you double teaming me?
That victim mentality.
Right. But the reality is, what's going to happen to you if you don't double team Kobe? If you don't double team Jordan? If you don't double team LeBron? Even if you do, they still probably going to beat you. Let alone you trying to play them one-on-one. It's not a sign of disrespect. It's a sign of respect. So when you know that about yourself, when you're going through these adverse situations and coming, instead of learning to understand that the world's going to tell you sound buoy. But you got to look yourself in the mirror and say, I'm Jordan. That's why you double teaming me. It takes that much for you to be me.
Wow.
That's two different mindsets. And that's why I try to get these kids to see.
There's something called the external locus of control. That's what that is right there. The external locus of control is just kind of like, why is everything happening to me?
Yeah.
Why I got to be in this situation? Then the internal locus of control is the exact opposite. It's just like, hey, I make things happen.
Yes.
They're double teaming me because I'm great.
Yes, and I'm
Versus
still going to beat you.
Why they double teaming me? Because that's that victim mentality, and it also is a form of narcissism. Because with people who are narcissistic, they always blaming everybody.
I don't know nobody like that.
Everybody, because I'd rather be family, friends, exes. Man, the government did this. Why they take this? Like, you can just hear it in the tone of their voice. There's always pointing the finger at everybody else but them.
And it's funny that you say that, because I was telling someone, and I've been saying to people, it occurred to me recently, you get these TikTok videos about
everybody's exes and narcissists.
Conspiracy and all this.
Yeah.
And to me,
victim mentality.
Yes, and that's why I told them, I was like, I don't watch that. They was like, why? I was like, why doesn't anybody on these videos ever alert you to anything before it happens?
Right.
Why do you only get this video after the fact that it's happening?
Exactly. If you're not actually doing anything about it, why are you complaining about it?
My friend, I got this metaphor. I tell her that, I could fly a kite in a thunderstorm and be at peace. And she's like, I'm going to call Good Shepherd on you. But the point is, for me, that, I have to find my own peace in this chaotic world.
Because it's the storm.
Yeah, what could I do?
But see, that's real peace, being able to find peace in the storm. Because being able to find peace when the sun is out, that's easy. That's lifting the 5-pound weights at the gym.
Yeah.
Everybody can do that.
Yeah, but they just don't look as sexy as I do when they do it. But they do it.
Right. So that's the challenge. Challenge and responsibility make your life more meaningful, more worthwhile. Yes. But, teaching the young kids, like I try to teach the kids, like, hey, responsibility, it sucks, but it actually pretty cool in the long run.
It's not.
You know what I mean?
It don't suck, man. Like,
to them in the moment that they are in,
because they don't understand the benefit of it.
So to them in the moment, it sucks. But they don't, until when they start to see, like, man, this is actually the secret sauce.
All of the things... I believe in transmutation, transferring one thing to another to benefit you. We get to decide whether it's going to be a stumbling stone or a stepping stone. We get to decide. I went through a breakup, and I had to come to grips that this was happening. It's going to happen, right? But I got to decide how I was going to go through it. Somebody said, if I went through a breakup after with somebody that long, I would just fall to pieces. What? That was my response to them. What?
Yeah.
I'm not going to give anybody the power to
break me
to pieces. What? For what? I'm gonna come back so strong. My next girl going to look so good to you. Mm-hmm.
But so those people that say that they have a codependent personality disorder. Yeah. They have that codependency, and so when they're in a relationship, they overly attach themselves. Especially they put their partner, especially the young kids.
Yeah,
and then they put this person in the center of their life.
Yeah,
and so when that person now leaves, it's in shambles.
Right. So when I'm talking to these
these young people and I'm having these conversations with them, one of the most powerful tools that I have is the power of asking questions.
Yeah.
Just because
Curiosity.
when you ask them questions, like you ask a young man, well, what are you going to do about this eclipse? He has to stop and think. Being a political science major during my time in college, the second Gulf War kicked off. Me and my friend Michael, what's up, Mike? Mike Henderson, still a good friend of mine to this day. We spent hours watching the news, watching the invasion happen, going to sleep, leaving the TV on, waking up and watching and seeing what's happening or whatever. And it caused me a lot of anxiety. I used to watch the History Channel. Doomsday. Man,
it's history. The History Channel should just be the Conspiracy Channel at this point.
Yeah,
it's not even the show. Stop showing history.
Yo, you ain't lying about it. You're right. It's reality TV anymore. It ain't.
I remember my mom. She would watch a lot of it, and I remember this day, like my dad. You know, we were getting ready to church. My mom, she's always late to church, and she was watching the History Channel. She's like, "Chris, look at this show," and it was called Ancient Aliens. And at that time, man, like this show, it woke me up to stuff that I really didn't know about. And that's kind of was the journey when I went down to all the conspiracies. Yeah. But it was just really cool seeing all these ancient sites I didn't really know anything about. I really liked that. At that time, I really thought, man, these aliens did this. But then as I start to know who I was and knew myself, I was like, these are not aliens.
These are black people.
These are very advanced ancient folks in the distant past. And they happen to be black.
And that's when I bro, that's when I had to stop watching. Aliens. So if you've done your research, you realize that one of the first universities was in Timbuktu. And the biggest export that Timbuktu had was books. They produced books for people all over the globe. So when you start doing geography, and you realize you brought up Egypt today. So think about the impact that Egypt has on.
Because where was Timbuktu at?
In Africa.
Okay.
Think in Mali, if I remember correctly. Think about the influence that even Egypt has over us today, and we're in America. How much more influence do you think it's going to have on Europe that's just across the Mediterranean?
And they make Timbuktu sound like it's this dumb country folk place, right? But really, that's in Africa.
So when I start
advanced,
yes. So there's books and there's documentary history of Europeans coming into Africa, learning things from Africa, taking it back to Europe. Yeah, right. You even think about the number system of 0 through 9. That comes from Islam. That comes from why don't you use Roman numerals? Because 0 through 9 is more efficient. How do you write 9.98 in Roman numerals? You understand what I'm saying? So yes, when you watch Ancient Aliens and they say, "Oh well, did they come and get this?" or "How about this?" But no fact checking, right? Man, no fact checking. These are the things.
It's truth mixed in with lies, which kind of obviously is more controversial and gets more attention. But that show definitely did, I would say, woke me up because it put me on the path of just kind of understanding there's a lot out here that I don't know.
Yes.
And it was really interesting to me at that time. And it's still kind of interesting to look at some of this stuff just from a perspective and just zooming out. But I definitely believe there were ancient advanced civilizations way more advanced than the ones that we think today.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I feel like some of these ancient sites were people who had the knowledge of this advanced master building capabilities, and they kind of spread it around the world.
I would venture to say, they were probably de-evolving.
Yeah, possibly. I think so.
And
it's not because of technology.
I think that's part of it.
It's part of it.
Yeah, I think it's part of it because technology makes you lazy, bro. Like growing up in high school, I knew pager numbers, I knew phone numbers by memory.
Man,
right. All of my friends, I remember their numbers by memory. Now I might remember my mama number, my daddy number.
Man, you know what I mean? I remember But you had to use your brain.
Yes, and so the thing about it is the conversation
kind of went to Ancient Aliens, but the point was more of so the negativity that comes along with the conspiracy theories.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like you mentioned the flat earthers.
Mm-hmm.
And my problem with people is I don't have enough scientific evidence to prove anything. I'm not a scientist.
Right.
But I don't like when people are automatically dismissive of anything without doing their own research. Don't just say, you're wrong. Show me empirically with data why this person is wrong.
Right.
But
yeah, you want to still be open and realize, okay, maybe it could be true, maybe it could not be. But with the flat earthers, even that documentary on Netflix, they proved their whole theory to be wrong at the end of the documentary. You know, and so it's just, I think at the end of the day, just even if if the earth is flat, like, okay, then now what? Like, that's the whole thing.
The
like, okay,
LCD, the lowest common denominator. What does it even matter?
That's the thing. It's just like, okay, if this person gets reelected, okay, well, now what? You know, like, what are you gonna do now? You gonna still live life, or you just gonna stop? Like, because it's almost like I look at life like kind of like this highway, and like we don't really get off of it. You know, it's like it's a constant journey. You can take breaks, but you can't just get out the car. You have to keep going. So it's like you just gonna pull over the side of the highway and just not drive, like, or we just gonna keep going, or you can slow down. That's cool. You don't need to speed, but you can't just stop. Life is a journey. Life is a journey. It's like that highway. We're on this highway with all these cars, and you just have to keep going. Can't stop.
Yes, it's an unfoldment. It's a journey. It's not an event. There's nowhere to arrive to. And it's hard for people to comprehend, because if you say, I'm going to make $1 million, right? And you make $1 million, and the next day someone wants to buy your services again, are you going to be like, oh, no, I'm done. I don't want to get no more money. Right. No, you're going to be like, all right, let's go on this journey again, right? It's the same way with self-discovery. You master something and you say, okay, well, now what?
It's like food too.
Yeah.
It's just like you can have a steak dinner last night, but you probably gonna eat something tomorrow.
You know what I mean?
You know, like
you ain't gonna be like, ooh, I mean, it could be the best steak you had.
Like, I'm good for the rest of the week.
Yeah, I mean, you know what? I'm never gonna eat again. I'm
it's
just
like,
gonna eat right here.
Tomorrow.
Like,
matter of fact, we going somewhere for brunch.
You know what I mean? I might want some dessert after that. But man, the LCD, man,
lowest common denominator.
It's a math term, you know.
Yeah,
it's a math term, but
so is the foundation. That's the foundation.
Yes, because the beauty of intelligence is simplicity.
That's the highest form of sophistication.
It's simplicity.
Yep.
It's the best teacher is the one who takes something that's very complex and he can break it down very simple so that anybody understands. I had an economic professor, and he says, if your gross income for the month is $1,000 and your expenditures is $500, then or your expenditures is $500 and your propensity to save is $500. Propensity to what? Expenditure what? Well, he could have just said, if you make $1,000 a month and your bills is $500 a month, you can potentially save $500 a month.
Right.
Oh, okay. Right. But people in their field,
they fall into the expert trap, I call it.
Yes.
Because then it's just like, and so that's why sometimes too, like when I speak to kids too, like I try to just speak to them just like I would with anybody else, because sometimes we can use these big words and whatnot, and that's cool and all because it impresses our colleagues,
right,
our coworkers,
right.
You know what I mean? But like the people you trying to connect with, especially the kids, like you got to break it down. And so like, if you can, I heard something that said if you can't explain something to somebody who's 6 years old, you don't really know it. If you can't explain the stock market to a 6-year-old, then you really don't know it.
Exactly, man. I've read journals from the Department of Education. I've read studies from Ivy League schools. I've read studies from institutions on mentoring. I've watched videos. I've went to conferences. I've interviewed people. I've emailed the people. And, you know, the parent doesn't care, nor do they know that, we institute the Socratic method in teaching your child. They don't even know what that means. What they care about is, what is the end result?
Right, because they don't have the time to be able to do all that too.
No, you don't have to be an expert. I'm the expert for you. That's why I do this.
Right.
You know, your job is a parent, whatever it might be. It may be a teacher, it may be a banker, maybe whatever. But my job is your child.
Just simplify the knowledge so then you can be able to
make a good decision.
Right. It's just like church. Like a lot of people who go to church don't even really know the Bible, but they're dependent on the pastor, man or woman, to deliver them the message and simplify it. And so that's why I think it was Leonardo da Vinci, one of those Italian folks out there, and he said, simplicity is the highest form of sophistication.
Yeah.
And so that's why the simplest things are the hardest to do, because they're just so simple, but they also are the best thing. Yeah.
We overthink them. One of the
it's like, just go and just talk to her.
Yes.
Because I think too, like with a lot of young kids, like that's another thing I'm curious about in the program. Like, could that, like, relationships, social skills, talking to,
There was a girl who I met, being young. I went up to talk to her. I shook her hand and she turned my hand over and looked at my nails. We were in the mall and she said, ugh, and she ran off. And then she started talking about my shoes, what I mean? And the average person couldn't deal with that rejection, but what it did for me was I just needed to be in my P's and Q's more. It was that made me get myself together. So I'm not going to stop trying to get a pretty girl just because you responded to that. I'm going to better myself. You know what I mean?
That's the internal locus of control there.
Yes. And no, I tell these guys that is good for you. It's good for you to be rejected sometimes. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
But part of it is the self-esteem. There's times I want to talk to girls and they told me no, but internally I didn't feel good about it because I didn't get the objective that I wanted. But later on, I found out that there's reasons why she said no. She had a boyfriend. She just got a breakup and she wasn't ready and it wasn't a good time. If she's not mentally ready, I shouldn't want to be with her. I should have enough self-esteem about myself to say, no, I need to be with someone who's ready and healthy. So I talk about that. I talk about,
that means you got to be patient. You can't be thirsty.
Yes.
Because it goes back to what you said in the very beginning. And it was along the lines of, if you can't take the criticism, then you're not ready for whatever it is. And so then it's like, if you can't even take the rejection of saying hello to this woman, you're not even ready to possibly date somebody at that stage.
Listen, if you cannot take a woman telling you no, you're not ready to date a baddie. You can't handle your self-esteem is not ready, bro.
No,
because everywhere you go, someone's gonna be trying to talk to her, and you can't handle that. You can't even handle the rejection part of it, let alone the competition. Everywhere she go, there's a man that wants to tell her how beautiful she is.
Absolutely.
Even the one who knows he has no chance in hell. Right. When you have healthy self-esteem, I deserve to be with her. It is what it is. See, as men, we have to, and as people, we have to earn, but men in particular, we have to earn our value.
Right.
We have to earn it.
Right. We got to earn our job, earn our income, all that.
I didn't just become this beautiful specimen of man that you see before you today. I have to work on that.
But some people, they didn't have to earn it. They just born with it.
Right. But
you know what I mean?
If you're born with it, you know that. You know that there's nothing you could have done to do it.
But see, people take advantage of that because they've been born with it and they don't.
It hurts them in the end. Yeah. It only hurts them.
Right.
Because hard work will beat talent.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's some rappers that are better rappers than me. But they ain't willing to stay up late at night to record after they just did 8 hours of studying. They ain't willing to put in the money to put in the promotion to go do the video. They ain't willing to give up their Saturday when they just worked all week to go record and then go pick up your kids and what I mean?
That's something because you really want it. You really like it.
Yeah, because I know myself and these are the things that I love. So it's not a problem for me. When I'm doing market research, for a parent, it would be boring as hell to read through all of these publishings. But for me, I could do it all day.
So what does that look like exactly? You said marketing research. So like you're researching exactly like how to market?
Yeah, absolutely. Because 97% of mentoring programs are for pay. Yet, and there's more programs than ever.
in our schools. These kids have more wraparound services than ever.
My gosh, it's too much.
Why are they still failing?
Right, because I have a wraparound meeting tomorrow actually for one of the kids, and like,
Because they have no.
They don't
these
care about the
children
kids.
know that they have no empathy for them. See, when I catch a kid, one of the teachers got mad because she tried, capping on one of the kids. She tried to crack a joke on him, and he flashed on her. Well, Mr. Gates flashed. He cracks jokes on you all the time. You don't get mad at him, but what she don't know is that same kid I seen at McDonald's 2 days ago, and I bought him lunch. I bought him dinner. I seen him in the community. He was walking to the YMCA, and I picked him up and took him home. And I told him this or this or that. You know what I mean?
right, that's so important. Those little things like that.
It's the relationship with him.
And so this is what's cool about your institute is because, see, I can't really necessarily do those based on the guidelines and whatnot. Because I remember when I first started doing
and that's
therapy,
why we're for profit.
you could go and do those things.
Yes.
You can be able to go outside of the four walls of a therapy session and really take a kid to the mall, show them something.
Yeah. Or you
It's
know how many
beautiful.
times I've had really dope sessions with a kid while I'm kicking his butt in 2K?
Man.
Because he don't know Mr. Gates play video games.
Now it humbles him.
Yeah.
Because they be thinking they're just like, man, I'm the
I've
best.
been playing this, but now I get to have enrolls with him, right? Because his guard is down.
Right.
We got to understand culturally too that everybody doesn't see social workers as an advocate for them, especially for the black community, because of the history we had with social services. So this black kid is trained at home not to open up to you.
Man, facts.
He's trained not to because he perceives if
Literally.
he does, you may take him out of his home. And I just read the statistics from the state of Kansas that most of the foster care kids in the state of Kansas come from Shawnee County, Wyandotte County, and Cedric County.
Absolutely.
That's
I remember working at
Topeka, Kansas City, and Wichita. The overwhelming majority come from Wichita, and a third of those kids are black kids.
And the crazy thing is, when I worked at St. Francis, believe it or not, though, but the state does not want these kids. Why? It's because there's so many that come into the sink cases, man. Like I had kids sleeping under my desk. There are so many kids, and when I was at St. Francis one day, I was like, what is the common denominator? I went through all of my cases, and the main ones were, abuse, drugs, poverty. It's just difficult, and some people are in a bad situation or whatnot. Sometimes it's not necessarily fair, but then again, it's about handling your responsibilities as an adult the best that you can, so the government, the one that governs men, doesn't have to govern you, because you have to govern yourself. But then again, every situation is different. But if you can always govern yourself, you don't have to worry about anybody trying to govern you. And then
I
you're
tell
good.
the kids that. I tell them that, man. The true sovereignty is not something you put on a piece of paper. It's something that's in here. It's about governing yourself so that other people don't have to do it.
Because exactly. Exactly.
That's why I couldn't go to the Army or the military. I come from a military family, but that's self-knowledge. Going back to why I get the aptitude test and personality test. My senior year, I started studying for the LSAT, right? I took some practice tests. I met with a couple colleges, and I went and interned, and man, I was so bored.
Is the LSAT, that's for the
Law school.
Law school, yeah.
Yeah. And so we talked about it. We alluded to kids saying things that sounded good. Because it sounded good. Oh, I'm going to go to law school. But because I actually know myself, as I started to intern and do these things, I realized that no, because law is all about rules. I'm not a rule type of person. That's what allows me to innovate in the Gates Institute, because I'm breaking the rules of what is holding your kids back. You know what I'm saying? No, we got to do something different, because the current rules say this is your brain on drugs. This kid idol does drugs for fun. You think he's scared of
egg in the pan. That scared our generation.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
It's interesting because I had a guy on the podcast yesterday. He's 70 and he talked about that the egg in the pan and how they show the commercial about your brain on drugs and whatnot. And so a lot of just stuff to kind of get people scared away. But like, since like you're like, you know, you're a trailblazer, you know, and so you can be able to not follow certain rules, but at the same time, don't get it twisted. You still have the structure.
Yeah, absolutely.
You see, because I think a lot of times kids, they don't like rules, a lot of them. But then now all of a sudden they don't like any of the rules. And it's like, no, you don't want to do that. You still want to have structure, but know which rules to break.
Yeah.
You know, but as a kid, there's very few rules that they can even break because they're not an adult.
Well, and we have to admit also as adults, being a teen is already in its just natural state is already difficult enough. And so we send them mixed messages. Stay in a child's place. You need to grow up and be an adult. Pick which one you want for them to do, right? Some of that is a confusing messaging on our end. We don't want to admit it as parents because we're telling our kid to do something that's the opposite of how we actually live our life.
And that's something.
That's a reflection on you. Your kid's reflecting and you mad at them when you really should be mad at you. Because you telling him to be more disciplined, but he don't see you get up and go to the gym. He don't see you read.
Right. They say, hey, practice what I say, but not what I do. Like, that's BS because kids learn through their eyes the most.
Right. They're going to do what you do and not what you say.
Right.
And I know because these kids, they're paying attention. I'm not even their parent. And Mr. Gates, you said.
Yeah.
Mr. Gates, you said. You're right, I did.
They say, you're going to give me McDonald's today. It's Tuesday.
It's Tuesday. I need that Big Mac. You know what I'm saying?
They told me I can't do that no more. You see, so now you don't have to worry about that.
But that's
why the nonprofit, that's another reason why you didn't want to do it.
Yes, because
grants.
You'd be surprised how far a bag of Takis goes.
Man.
This bag of Takis, because these kids love them. Hey, come here. What's wrong with blah, 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 blah? Don't tell nobody I told you, but woo-dee woo, 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 woo. All right, here, take your Takis, go on about your business.
Right.
When I see student B, hey, come here. What, Mr. Gates? Bring your ugly butt over here. What? Rub on the head, you all right? Yeah, I'm all right. You lying. What's wrong with you? Blah, 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 blah.
Right.
All right, here, take these Takis. This is what you do. Go to class. Next time you have that problem, come talk to me.
Right, because they see and they respect that because you at the same time you're down to earth and like you can be able to speak to them.
Right.
It's not like kind of like this very stiffness.
Now I got a box of Takis. It's 20 in a pack for $8, $9, $10. You want me to spend 10?
I'm about to go grab me some Takis, do that same thing because I used to do the chips, but like Takis, but the kids
they like them.
This is no. This
you
is crazy.
You want to spend $10 on a box of Takis?
I'll tell you right now why I stopped giving candy, and now I'm going to probably try to change it though. Just hearing this again because it all came back to like when I was at CommCare and like, oh, you can't give away this and you can't do that. And then there's always like when I would try to do it again, there's one of those caring parents. It's like, whoa, my son can't eat red, yellow 40. Yeah, right, and so it's like this is in there and whatnot. So then I'm just like, all right, I'll let this one parent ruin the whole thing for everybody else. But then again, it's just like you do have to be mindful. There are some parents like, oh, I don't want them eating that. But a bag of Takis, a bag of maybe like a piece of candy or a piece of gum.
Listen.
Yeah.
This is what I'll say. And do you want to pay me to mentor your child that's going to love them with kindness and caring and empathy and really, really want them to do better? If not, there's a program that's for them where they can have a roommate, it's secure access. They'll get 3 meals a day. They'll even get rec time. It's called KDOC. They'll have a mentor for them. They'll get their own special number.
Because that was the cap.
Yeah.
That's what the KDOC used to be the cap.
Yes. This Kansas, if you know what KDOC means, it means Kansas Department of Correction. There's a mentorship program that they'll put them in gladly in that program.
Right.
So you want to pay them to, you want to pay the state to imprison your kid? Or you want to invest in them with someone who actually cares? See, it's the human element that makes these kids listen to me. It's the human element that I respect them even though they're a kid. I respect them as a person.
Wow.
That's what gets through to them. That's what makes them change.
See, Mr.
Reynolds.
Mr. Reynolds.
Yep.
Yeah, he got on my head. But the other part that you didn't hear is when I was locked up, one of my friends got killed. And he called me out after everybody was on lockdown. He called me out to talk to me, and his wife had made some pie.
That's what did that pie.
And you been locked up. That was I felt like I was on life. Well, this good pie. This pie good.
Was that Martin? Who?
Yeah, Martin. You know what I mean? And Eddie. But
right.
I'm clowning. But just something as small as this man's wife made some pie. He thought enough about me to bring me a piece and say in my time of need, I need that. See, you're right. The state agencies, and I understand why, but we not really looking at the bigger picture. If the state is wanting you to have the separation of relationship and is really the bond with the child.
That's the biggest part.
Right. If they're keeping you from that, that means that someone's been abusing that. They're worried about someone violating this child. You're not hiring the right people.
Right.
And this kid is hired. Listen, I don't play with nobody's kids. That's what I was alluding to with these females. One of the females came up to me, 2 female students came up to me and said, Mr. Gates, we're mad at you. I said, why? Because you treat the male students different than you treat us. I said, well, what do you mean? Well, you give them hugs and you put your arm around them, but you don't do that to us. You let them come down to your office and sit and eat snacks with you, but you don't let us. And I can't tell them, listen, we live in a sick world where people will violate you and I got to protect myself. They don't look at it like, why would you need to protect yourself from me, Mr. Gates?
Right.
You wouldn't do nothing.
Right.
It's tough.
It is tough.
What I mean? It's tough.
That's crazy, man. Well, man, I really appreciate you coming on the show, man. We definitely have to bring you on again, man, because you just have a wealth of knowledge, man. Like I've always feel like you always, the first time when I met you, man, you just had so much knowledge, so much to say, and you have your voice. You know, when you speak, people listen.
I appreciate that.
You know, at least I listen.
So, man, Chris, thank you for having me on the show. I appreciate it. I'm glad to be a community partner and refer children to you because your services are invaluable. We need more workers like you who help from the heart and not just from the mindset. So if you're watching this podcast, man, thank you. Make sure you subscribe to my guy, but visit Gates Institutes with the S, so that's GATES Institutes.com to learn more about the services that I give to your kids. I love to be a mentor. I love to sit down and have a free consultation with you and your family and see how we can not only get your child back in a good place, but get the whole family as a whole on the same place on behalf of the child.
Man, that's awesome. That's awesome. That's the call of action right there, guys. So you guys heard it, Gates Institutes.
Yes,
with the S at the end.com.
We growing. We growing the S.
There's gonna be multiple institutes.
Yeah.
Isn't that something, man? That's powerful. That's powerful, man. So
what's up? It's your boy Is316 Sean Gates, and I'm here with the Gates Institute. Thank you, Chris, for having us with Fully Connected Podcast. Remember, stay fully connected.
Hey, there we go. Appreciate it, man. We'll get out of here for now, man. Fully Connected Podcast. We're gonna sign out. Peace.
Peace.